And recording's in progress. Okay, I am so excited that Camille Hamilton out of Houston, Texas, a longtime friend, don't tell me, oh, there she is. It's like, don't disappear on me. Decided or accepted my invitation to join us to talk about cybersecurity and the importance of it. So Camille's been with CMIT Solutions. I said I've known her, Camille, I don't know how long, but thank you for joining us. And I'm going to be quiet now and let you take over.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I love to talk about cybersecurity, and Deb and I have known each other probably longer than either one of us want to admit. Met through just connections in the franchise world. So I am a franchisee of CMIT, and I've been in business for 23 years. And hopefully my slides, there we go. I'm a graduate of the University of Texas, which is a big deal here in Texas. I've got 42 years in IT. I've owned my franchise for 23 years, which makes me the longest single owned location in our system. And we are a franchise system that's based in Austin with over 275 franchises in US and Canada. So I want to talk about cybersecurity. That is a huge, huge issue for business owners. And it doesn't matter whether you're a solopreneur or you have 100 people or 5,000 people or whatever. It can affect you, and it can have really horrible consequences if you don't pay attention to that. So just to let you know, some of the services that we provide as a company we're a managed service provider. What that means is we are proactive in trying to keep our clients out of trouble as opposed to reactive and helping them after they're in trouble. That's a bad conversation. That's kind of one of our worst nightmares, is to have a call from somebody that says, I think I just got ransomware. Because it's going to be an ugly couple of weeks, and it's going to probably cause the business owner to lose a lot of sleep and potentially go out of business. It can have that kind of consequence on it. I'm going to give you some statistics in a minute, but that's what we want to do, is we want to be proactive, not reactive. We do offer cybersecurity protection. There are things out there that is affordable for small to medium business, because that's our client base, is small to medium business. We also offer Microsoft 365. Microsoft has changed their business model from you going and buying Office on a DVD and installing it on your computer. They really are pushing towards the more subscription-based environment. We also, of course, offer data backups. It's probably one of the most important things to do. If you lose your data and you get hit with a cyber attack, then you're going to need a data backup, so you don't have to pay the ransom. We also do database development. We have a client that's a nonprofit. They couldn't find any software out there on the market to help them with their client services and tracking that. So we developed a database, and we've also done other database development products for other companies. And last but not least, we offer hardware procurement and installation. So if our clients need a firewall, or our clients need computers or a server, we get that. The CMIT system as a whole has our own team at Dell to help us with that, because what we want to do is make sure clients get what they need and not that they don't overspend or underspend. So what are our security offerings? That's really what we're here to talk about, cybersecurity. When I started this 23 years ago, I really just made sure clients had antivirus. That was the threat. That was it. So we had that. Now we have all these different layers. And when we sit and talk to one of our clients about our prospects, we talk to them about all this. And what we say is, you need to determine how much you're willing to spend versus how much you're willing to risk, because not having some of these increases your risk. So it's all about risk management. First and foremost are firewalls. Firewalls, I never recommended them to small businesses, solopreneurs up. I never recommended it until you got to about 10 people. Now I say everybody needs a firewall. That's just vitally important to keep somebody from getting into your network and stealing data. How would you feel about a client that if you were doing business with your CPA and they had all your financial stuff stolen? You're probably not going to stay doing business with them. And I even encourage my clients that, hey, when you sit down with somebody you're going to do business with, ask them what their security environment is for their IT. Antivirus. I also didn't really used to care if people had a free antivirus. I was like, at least you have something. Now I tell business owners, if you're doing free, you're going to get what you pay for. It's that old adage of just because it's free doesn't mean it's good. Backups. I talked about that just a minute ago. I'll give you a quick story. We have a client that's been with me for a long time, but he does very minimal stuff. He's a small manufacturer. He has about 22 employees, and he got ransomware last May, not this past May, but May 22. He was down for 2+ weeks, completely down for 2 weeks. How would that impact your business if you were down for 2 weeks?
Thanks.
We
Thanks,
did
Shane.
not have to pay the ransom because the one thing
Thanks, Shane.
he is willing to pay for is backup. And we had very good backups, but it took a long time to get a couple of terabytes of data back onto his system. Plus we had to wipe everything and all that stuff. So backups are critical. You want to make sure your people are doing really good backups. We now offer endpoint security, and that means that we're not just putting antivirus on our clients' computers. We're putting this thing that detects ransomware. What happens with ransomware is it's an executable program. So if you click on a link or you open up a document that's infected with ransomware, it starts to execute and goes in and encrypts all your data, whether it's on your server, whether it's on your computer or whatever. This stops that from occurring. It recognizes that it's bad and it stops it. And then also our security operations center is monitoring those alerts, and they send us and tell us what's happening. Multi-factor authentication, just show of hands. Everybody know what that is or not? Does anybody know it? It's the, you have something and you know something. Banks are requiring you to do that every time you log in potentially, or credit cards, those kind of things. We highly encourage multi-factor authentication processes in place. Password managers, gone again are the days of you have one password and you use it everywhere. You need to have a password for everyone. Well, that's kind of hard to keep up. Hard for me to keep up. I will tell you something on a hint on passwords is I do a thing where I have the first 6 characters of my password, or 5 characters, is something that I always remember. It's the same, but then I use maybe the last 5 will be something that's unique to that. Like if it's my bank, or if it's, my American Express, then I have something on the back that I can remember. And then I also have the password manager. So I have a combination of things, but you don't want to use the same password on every single site. And now we have email security. We're just rolling out a new product in the last 6 months. It's better than a lot of the spam filters that are out there, because if you have employees, you want to make sure they're not getting stuff in their inbox that they might accidentally click on and cause problems. So just to give you some cybersecurity statistics, the estimated, it's estimated the global cost of cybercrime is going to exceed $10 trillion in 22. But one thing I really want to focus on, I don't know if any of y'all have kids or grandkids that are getting ready to go to college and they're trying to pick a career. If they don't have a career and they're interested in something in technology, cybersecurity is the way to go. Encourage them. There are almost 715,000 US job openings right now in cybersecurity. And it could be pretty exciting too, I think. The other staggering statistic is the average ransom for a ransomware attack is over $100,000. That's pretty mind-boggling to me. It's up 37%. I know my small business, if I got hit with ransomware and I had to fork out $100,000, I'd be out of business, And just a quick story. I have a friend who is a Mary Kay business. She's a solopreneur, and she got hit with ransomware, and I think her ransom was $500. Well, in her Mary Kay, proportionate, that's a significant amount of money. Our client that got hit last year, their ransom was $25,000. Fortunately, we didn't have to pay it because we had good backups. But again, he got a bill from us for about 10 grand, which he wasn't expecting for that month. And his employees couldn't work for 2+ weeks, and he couldn't sell anything for 2 weeks. So I had no idea what financial impact that was. In 22, we saw over 620 million ransomware attacks worldwide. It's a pretty staggering number. And in a lot of cases, clients don't realize it for 200 days that they have something sitting on it. Because a lot of times what ransomware will do is they'll sit on your computer or your server and for maybe 200 days or whatever, and then it executes. So that's why it's important to have endpoint security in place so that it doesn't ever even get on your computer and start to execute. And I think the thing that really drives this home is about 60% of small businesses will shut down within 6 months of an attack. I want to talk just a little bit about data breaches also. So ransomware is one part of cybersecurity problems, and data breaches are another, where someone goes in and steals your data. That's what a firewall stops. It stops these bad actors from getting in. And one of the things that happens is that these bad actors, and they're not local, they're not in the United States, so you're not going to get any, it's a crime, but you're not going to get any satisfaction about them being prosecuted. They're in Russia and China and North Korea and Iraq and Iran. So those kind of places. So the interesting thing about data breaches is they go in, they steal your data. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you got to go tell your clients, hey, we had a data breach. That's not going to go over very well with them. And that's going to give you a bad reputation. And that can cause you to go out of business as well. So what can you do to safeguard? And these are things you can do by yourself, or you can hire a company like us. But I definitely encourage everybody, whether you're a solopreneur on up, to develop a relationship with a reputable IT company that you like and that you get along and that you know, so that if you do have a problem, you're not getting to know them under a stress condition. Calling us when we've had that situation where somebody's called us and said, hey, we've had our emails been hacked and we need help. Well, then it becomes an emergency mode, and nobody operates well in a emergency mode. We want to get ahead of it, not get behind it. So backup, I've talked about this several times today, backup often, and maybe put it in multiple places. Like you might have a local one that you store in some sort of safe on a external hard drive, but then also go to the cloud, because here in Texas, we have to worry about hurricanes. I think you guys maybe have to worry about wildfires or whatever. If your building burns down and your only backup is in your office, and the office is burned down, that's not going to do you much good. So you want something in the cloud too. Having something local in your office where you need to recover a file or some files, that's great. It's going to be their fastest recovery. But you also want to have something in case your building is no longer there. Again, we talked about risk assessment. Deploy multi-layered tools where you've got lots of things in place, antivirus and endpoint protection and all these different things. I talked about rolling out multi-factor authentication. I will tell you that Microsoft, if you have a Microsoft 365 account, they are requiring, it's almost impossible to turn off multi-factor authentication. You have to jump through a lot of hoops, and it's because they're trying to protect you. You also want to make sure you're getting your updates on your operating system. And I just want to address real quick, people think that having Apple products, they don't have to worry about these kind of things. That is not true. The reason the attackers go after Microsoft is because that's a much larger installed base. There are so many more, especially in business. There's going to be a lot more people in business using Microsoft Windows products as opposed to the Macintosh OS operating systems. But you want to make sure that when Microsoft comes out with good updates to your operating system, you want to put that in there, because again, bad actors, they know about the holes that Microsoft has, and they'll take advantage of those. So you want to make sure that gets done. And then, as I said earlier, rely on an expert for ongoing IT support. Again, 23 years ago, my biggest competitor, when I talk to businesses, well, my brother-in-law comes in on Saturdays and occasionally helps me. Or my cousin or my neighbor or whatever comes in and you can't depend on that anymore. You really need somebody that's going to respond to you within a short period of time. Most of our clients have a service level agreement of 3 hours or less. We will respond to them in 3 hours. We may not have the problem fixed, but we are going to call them back. We can't wait for your brother-in-law to get off work and come by tomorrow. So just people we work with are small to medium businesses. We want to make sure we handle people with that uptime is important, because that's the other thing we try to do is keep our uptime where clients are up. If you're not up, you're not working and your employees are not productive. And there's people that want to make our their data, make sure their data is secure. One of the things that we have a client that actually has a location in Colorado. It's a daycare. They have 7 locations of daycares. And, the last thing that daycare needs is for those children's information to be put on the dark web. That would be a horrible situation. I think that's the one I feel most concerned about. I just saw Sounds of Freedom last night. And, you sure don't want kids' addresses out there on the dark webs, because these people can snatch those kids off the streets pretty quickly and then they're gone. So anyway, we also have a quick tip. You're welcome to, if you'd like to subscribe, just let me know. I'm going to give you my contact information. Comes out every Tuesday, and it just gives you a technology quick tip for how to deal with your computers, your networks, security situations, that kind of thing. And that's all I got.
And Camille, the quick tips have been helpful, because I do subscribe to that and I see them, and what made me think about inviting you over to talk about the cybersecurity issue. So very, very helpful. Let's see. And does anybody have any questions for Camille? Definitely connect with her. You can find her on LinkedIn. As she mentioned, you can find her in Facebook. She sent her email.
I guess I have a quick question. I don't know. I guess I don't know that much about ransomware, and I'm really old fashioned. I'm just me. I have a small art business. I still do everything by hand. I don't have lists of my clients anywhere on my computer. I do contracts. I send them out, all of those kind of things. Am I at risk for what I do, or
You're not putting
it's
that
mainly for someone that would have all of that information on their computer to begin with?
Absolutely. If you put stuff on your computer that has client lists, employee, if you have employee information, credit card information stored, any of those kinds of confidential medical. We have a client that's in medical, that they're a nephrologist, and they have 2 locations, and they got ransomware. They encrypted all the data and stole it. And fortunately, again, they're well backed up, didn't have to pay it. But anything that's on your computer or in the cloud, you need to be concerned. And that's the other question I get a lot is, well, all my stuff's in the cloud. Do I have to worry? Well, yeah, because if they breach it, do a data breach and get into your network, they can get into your cloud information.
Okay.
Well, I have a
Thank you. I
question.
just wasn't that familiar with it.
Sure. Good question.
My question is, when you're dealing with CRMs like the Salesforces of the world or things like that, can you talk a little bit about how this would apply in that situation when really, I think they typically run their own cybersecurity and you're just a microcosm in their ginormous CRM space? Would you talk about that?
Sure. So you still have to access that CRM. We use Salesforce internally as well. But you got to access that. And, people do all these unbelievable things like keystroke loggers, where they're logging your keystrokes. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you're not getting anything put on your computer that's going to do things like, okay, you've typed in salesforce.com and then you've entered your username and password, and they've gotten all that. And then they can go in and parse that. And then they can get into your CRM and make sure that they get all your client information. So there's protections, even if everything is in the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I still would recommend a firewall, and I'd recommend endpoint security. I do everything in the cloud mostly. A majority of my stuff that I do, you know, I have the firewall, the endpoint protection. I have a good antivirus that's strong. And I use multi-factor authentication. So I do all the things.
Sure.
I have a question. And I know this is a broad question, probably difficult to answer, but you know, as a small business owner, we have to think about how much things cost and how much money we're spending. For like maybe a basic package with you guys. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but how much does that generally cost?
So for our basic package, which includes keeping your computer updated, it includes cleaning off your computer with, you know, keeping the temp files off there. It includes a good antivirus that's managed by us, and it also includes the endpoint protection with the Security Operations Center, which we call a SOC. That is $45 a month per computer.
Per computer? Okay.
And we have clients we have clients all over. Like I said, we have a client that has a location in Colorado. And what we do is if you develop a relationship with CMIT, there's a CMIT, for instance, in Parker, Colorado, or there's several in the Denver area. And I'm not sure about Colorado Springs. I think there is one in Colorado Springs. Susan Bateman started that one. So say you get on our program, the $45 a month, and then you need an actual on-site visit, then we can coordinate with the CMIT locally to go and help you online. I mean, help you on site, and we do all the rest. We do as much as we can remotely, but you know, we're monitoring your stuff. So that's kind of what you're looking at. Different IT companies charge differently for their packages, but that's the proactive approach.
Thank you.
Perfect. Very good. I'm looking around. Does anybody else have any questions for Camille? I'd say jot down her email. I'm going to say that she's very responsive. I'm sure she wouldn't mind receiving, correct me if I'm wrong, Camille, receiving an email from you with questions going further.
Oh, absolutely. I'll answer questions, you know, no charge, just call me. I'd rather you ask the questions and, you know, than to not ask questions and end up in trouble. I'll put my information in the chat.
Okay, and I'll send it out when I do the follow-up and send the recording as well. So Camille, you may hear from others that are watching the recording that could not be here today. So let's see, I'm going to stop the recording.